So a little bit about my background, first of all. I have 2 decades in animal physiotherapy and performance enhancement practice. I'm a graduate sports therapist, and that was a human course. And my thesis topic was proprioception. I have a postgraduate certificate in animal health, which included manipulation techniques. I have an advanced certificate in veterinary physiotherapy and a certificate in equine athletic performance, structural profiling and rehabilitation. And the chartered physiotherapist who ran this course was the great Joe Hodges, who was one of the early pioneers of animal physiotherapy. I have a diploma in MSFC saddle fitting. I am a certified clinical educator in veterinary physiotherapy. I am an accredited course creator, accredited by LANTRA, and a certified and personally endorsed trainer of the animal chiropractic methods formulated by American chiropractor Dr. Daniel Kamen, DC. And I attended my first session with him for these manual techniques in 2001. And I began my PhD study, which will be focusing on the rider. I've also been writing a book for the past 3 years, which should be completed in another couple of months. And a typical testimonial about this course, or one that certainly sums up the course content: visibly seeing horses and riders change in minutes. Horses originally moving with high head carriages and heavy front ends, magically rounding, slowing and relaxing. Fascinating to see the effect of saddles incorrectly shaped for that particular rider or horse, taking a young supple rider into the completely wrong place and vice versa, taking a hollow-backed rider into one with the neutral pelvis. Highly recommend this course to anyone, but especially for a professional in one aspect of equitation who knows little of other branches. I honestly believe, having done this course, it should be a requirement that instructors, trainers and saddle fitters should be on this or similar. Otherwise, how can we possibly do our best for the welfare of the horse without this knowledge? Heartfelt thanks, Caroline, for showing me the way. So that's the remit. So this is an accredited course, accredited by LANTRA. And there is no final grade. It's just pass or not yet competent. It's part of adult vocational lifelong learning. As I said, accredited by LANTRA, and LANTRA specializes in land-based vocational courses. And what this means for me to have gained accreditation as a provider of courses which I have created myself, or in other words, they are officially called custom provision. It means that the courses that I have gained accreditation for by LANTRA have been scrutinized for the learning experience in terms of quality, fairness, delivery, consistency, and my professional competency, and of any presenter which I invite as a guest lecturer, and also compliance with the various standards which LANTRA expect from their providers. And RPL means that as a professional, you can expect some credit for your prior training. Enrolment. First step to enrolment after you've actually purchased the course or the webinar series and paid for that in the booking link is that you'll be asked to register with the accrediting body, which is LANTRA. And for that, I require a £25 payment via PayPal, and info@carolinelyndsay.com is my email address there. So that's how you can transfer the funds to me. And with that, you'll complete a very brief course application form so that I can provide LANTRA with this information. Then the next step is to purchase the independent study program, which is hosted on Thinkific. And there's a charge of £50 for that, for 10 hours of independent online study that you complete at your leisure. And then a final assignment fee of £100, which is payable before submission of the final assignment. Taking a look at the course content, the first session will be a background to the topic of rider evaluation and stabilisation. We will observe the effects of asymmetry on the horse and rider, consider the influence of the rider, explore the neuromuscular basis of equitation, define the biomechanical requirements of basic equitation. And in the next session will be all about posture, determining how the rider might inhibit equine gait, listing the basic components of posture, relating posture to functional axes of spinal and locomotor muscles, expanding on the accepted concepts of static conformation, describing what we mean by core strength, describing the different needs of core strength by the horse and the rider as two separate elements, relating the position of the neutral pelvis to muscle recruitment. There are ways of stabilizing the rider on the saddle, which are relatively simple and straightforward if you know what they are. And we'll outline how the stability of the horse and rider affects the dynamic posture. Balance, in other words, synchrony in movement. And we'll recognise and explain the difference between good and poor static posture, and discuss a variety of challenges relating to maintaining good posture. So by now you will have figured out for yourself that the rider plays a very big part in creating a good dynamic posture in the horse. And we will carry out a postural evaluation of the rider, which is always very revealing. Session 3 will be saddle fit checking. We'll explore saddle fit for the horse. We'll explore saddle fit for the rider, and construct a basic saddle fit checking protocol. Session 4, we'll get on to the business of rider stabilisation. And up to now, you will have had a couple of assignments to do. So not one for the first session, but for the second session where you're evaluating the rider, you will be asked to evaluate a rider and film it, so that I have evidence that you are competent and that you have done your homework. And in the third session, you will have some saddle fitting to practice and film. And these are very short films, just a couple of minutes each. The biggest commitment for those films is actually figuring out how to do it and how to edit. And for the rider stabilisation, you will be putting the rider on the horse and organising their posture and looking at the effects of the rider's posture on the horse, which is that they should have more vertical lift through the withers and a longer stride length when the rider holds themselves or their posture in neutral rotation, which is the bit that many trainers or coaches of equitation miss when looking at them from the ground, because you've actually got to get them off the horse to evaluate where those aberrant rotations are in the various joints. So determining how the rider achieves balance and synchrony. As I just said, applying those basic postural corrections. You will produce 2 case studies, so 2 separate horse and rider combinations. So the course is set at the equivalent to level 3. And if you wish to read that, just pause and I'll go on. So that's equivalent, but not actual, because this is a custom provision course, not a regulated course like a BTEC or an A-level, for example. So what will you be able to do by the end of the course? Outline basic human and equine musculoskeletal kinetic anatomy. So a lot of that is in the independent study, although we will be applying those concepts as we go through the webinars. Perform a basic postural assessment of the unmounted rider. Characterize the effects of good and poor saddle fit on the horse and rider combination. And apply the basics of how to stabilize a competent rider on the moving horse in a walk, trot and canter, if safe to do so, in a riding arena or enclosed area. So the format of the course. You will have 30 hours of guided learning. That's your 4 webinars are the guided learning. 10 hours of independent study and your hands-on assignments. So that comes in at around 30 hours of commitment. That is in 6 weeks, where you'll get 2 weeks to complete your final assignments. That's approximately 5 hours of each and every week. It's 100% vocational, so 100% hands-on. There will be no essays. As I said, 6 weeks, and there's 4 guided learning webinars and mandatory attendance of 3 out of 4. So unfortunately, you can't just watch all the replays for this. You need the guided learning for the accredited course and for the certified competence. But I know that life happens and there may be one webinar that you just can't make it to. So I've set that as a mandatory 3 out of 4. The independent study there, which I've put at 12 hours. I must have added a bit extra. And completion of the weekly video assignments, which I just mentioned. So after session 2, 3, and 4, you'll have the evidence of your competence to provide on film. And submission of a final assignment at the end of the course. So don't get too bogged down with this. As I say, it may seem like a big task at the beginning to actually learn how to make a film. And I've seen some very impressive work, actually, and even more impressive when it's been done on a phone. So it is possible to do this. And this isn't a social media course, so it's absolutely fine for you to get someone else, a techie, who will do this for you. I'm fine about that. This is what you will need. A reliable broadband connection, and that may mean throwing everyone else off their Xboxes, off their phones, off their Facebook, and yourself as well. When you tune in for the webinars, shut everything down and just focus on the webinar. You will have a much better experience, a much better broadcast, a much smoother film if you just dedicate your broadband speed to the program, or your bandwidth rather. I've said Windows 10 Photos software, which is free or equivalent. I am sorry, I know very little about Apple, apart from I have an iPhone, but no idea how to make a film on it. So I am providing you with some film editing training, which relates to the free program that's set on every Windows 10 computer. You must have access to Facebook for communication updates. So if you cannot find a link for the next webinar and you can't find it in your email, you will find it in the Facebook group, the dedicated group that I have set up for you. So always go there, always check it at least twice a week, because I cannot tag everybody in there. You must have access to a minimum of 2 horses or ponies. That's absolutely fine. They're riders, so 2 riders, and their saddles and their bridles. So 2 horse, saddle, rider, bridle combinations. A saddle stand or buck. Risk-assessed working conditions, and that means no working in fields, no working with babies in buggies in the stable. The usual risk-assessed working conditions, because you are all professionals and it's assumed that you know how to keep yourself safe around horses. I am not going to be teaching you horse handling here. And if you submit films, especially in your final assignments, if you submit films showing that you're working in dangerous conditions, I cannot pass you, unfortunately, much as I want to. You will have to have help with filming. So an assistant, not for everything, but it's useful to have somebody with you, even though sometimes it may be the horse handler or the rider, but there'll be times when you need a dedicated assistant for that. You must have access to a personal computer. Forget about doing this course on a phone. It's been tried before. And what you can't do usually on a phone is to engage and participate in the chat, because that is simply blocked by your phone. As if by magic, my phone's ringing. You'll need a smartphone or a camera, or the camera on the smartphone. You will need a Gmail and a YouTube account. And this is for viewing the broadcasts. A quick look at how to pass with ease, because this might feel now like you've bitten off more than you can chew. 100% attendance. So keep your attention on the course as much as you can. Just do what I ask you to do. Send in the videos as per the assignments, and you'll be absolutely fine. 100% commitment. As I say, sometimes life gets in the way, but just keep going. 100% focus and effective time management. That is why I've put a short presentation there about time management in the independent study. And be prepared to find 5 hours a week or an hour a day, Monday to Friday. But part of that is part of that allowance is your 2.5 hour webinar. So things are not so bad. Comprehensive yet concise assignments. And this is a difficult one. I don't want a feature film about how to evaluate the rider. I would, for example, like a 2 or 3 minute film, usually on how you have evaluated your rider, and you would then state the results. And that's all I need to know. I don't need you to say, now I'm sending the rider away in walk. Now I'm asking them to do a one-legged squat. I can see what they're doing. I don't need to know that. What I need to know is the results of your evaluation. So that's easy, isn't it? So as you can see, we'll be working with the riders mostly off the horse. And it's very comprehensive. I've packed a lot of information into this course, and very intensive, therefore, along with it. That going on past feedback, you will also find it very, very enjoyable. So if you have any questions, info@carolinelyndsey.com, and that's how you spell Caroline Lindsay there in the left-hand corner of the screen. And I very much look forward to working with you.